Hi, I'm Constantine Sidamon-Eristoff. I live in Queens, New York, and I am a 28-year-old who has just finished his second master's. I focus mostly on Roman material culture and art history. And that means that, for the next degree, you typically need to actually learn Greek or Latin, or both, depending on the program. So I decided to return to Latin, which is the language that I learned in high school. Yeah.
Great. And well, congrats on the second master's.
Thank you. Yeah, it's I'm hearing back from PhDs later this week. So,
oh boy, okay.
Fingers crossed. But this, this is going to definitely help me hit the ground running in terms of that, and hopefully start farther down the path in terms of their language requirements than I would be able to otherwise. So
yeah, totally. Yeah. So you'd studied Latin before in undergrad or high school?
This was in high school. I actually switched briefly to French due to a relationship with a French woman in college. But
excellent.
Now back to Latin. So that's how that went.
So in high school, did you do wheelox with Latin? How did it go in high school versus kind of what's your experience with ALI in comparison?
Well, we did do a little bit of wheelox, but we mostly used another series actually, which is escaping me right now. It's the one where you follow a fictionalized version of Horace around. But
oh wow, I don't know about that one.
Yeah, it was all right. It was a much less friendly learning environment, and much more of the teachers actually, got generally a little bit. There was a lot of frustration from the teachers with us, in terms of if we weren't getting things quite fast enough, which is very different from what's been going on at ALI, where they don't mind at all letting everybody who has anything that they're struggling with talk about it and sort of come forward with it. So it's much more it's much less the same sort of discipline the Latin into you kind of thing, and much more of let's actually work through things as we go.
Yeah, good. And you are currently in intermediate Latin 1, L201, right?
I'm in 201, yeah.
Okay,
so I started in the back half of last summer, and I definitely think that it's really helped things come back to me much more quickly than self-study would have. And I think that it's really been I think that it has been successful overall.
Yeah. That's great. What's your favorite part of the ALI classes you've taken so far?
Well, honestly, so Orberg is a lot of fun because there is a lot of embedded humor in that. But it is nice to sort of be with other people who are in the class because they want to be there, rather than in high school where you need to sign up for French, Spanish, or Latin, and the people who got in Latin are the ones who kind of didn't missed the fill up. So it's a lot more, or so I really like the fact that we're with a lot of students who are fairly enthusiastic about the material and actually fairly driven to follow through. And I think that, so it's nice and it's nice having this a group of people who are also are on the same goal and on the same path to come back to every week.
So this makes me think of, I get a lot of questions from people who've probably been in similar situations to you, where for one reason or another, they're like, oh, I really need to work on my Latin. But, I did do it in high school. Maybe I could just jump into ALI's intermediate class because I, did did a high school class, and I remember some of the grammar. You, despite that experience, started with 101.
Yeah.
Are you glad you did?
I am, because I did the sort of over the summer accelerated version, which, was able to kind of tap into my familiarity, but it really like helped me really to kind of get back up to speed in terms of recalling all of the parts that I didn't know I hadn't quite forgotten.
Yeah.
So I definitely would say that if you are thinking of jumping in, you may want to just consider doing accelerated to get or just as a refresh, and then, slow it down once you feel like you've kind of hit the level that you want to kind of do that at.
Yeah. Yeah. So going forward, looking ahead to your PhD program, what are you most looking forward to vis-a-vis your Latin skills?
Well, I'm looking forward to using it to kind of more understand people as they present themselves and as they present their ideas, rather than how various translators over the centuries have done that. Because reading anything in translation is as much reading it at or as much reading an interpretation as it is reading the actual thing. So it can kind of help a lot of the time, especially when you get into all right, what are they and what I do, which is material culture. Okay, how are they really talking about and thinking about these stuff in their lives? And I feel like that really does help you kind of more understand, get closer to understanding how they would think. Not necessarily, it's not possible to understand how anybody else thinks completely, but it is rewarding to sort of be able to better understand the shape of thought.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. No, that makes sense. That's great. For people who aren't familiar, what does material culture mean in terms of academic study of a civilization?
So in terms of that, there is no living in a culture without living in the presence of stuff and thinking about stuff and interacting with it. And that ends up having a relationship with culture, both in terms of the way that they shape their thinking about the world around them, and in terms of the way that they conceive possible ways of going about their life and going about their day. So so knowing their material culture gives you a sense of what they were capable of and how they were able to approach the wider world around them.
What kinds of things do you imagine reading in Latin as you study this stuff?
Well, I personally want to get more into Pericles. I want to kind of, a lot of the work that I've focused on in my last degree was on trade with the Indian Ocean, but there are a lot of authors actually that have basically produced these books, which kind of talk about going from place to place around seas and what is available there, who is there to interact with, and to try to get a sense more of how they describe their world to each other, which is filled with information about what they would find useful, what they would find interesting, and what they would find notable. So I definitely want to look more into that. And I also want to look more into actually the nitty-gritty of trade agreements, and basically, yeah, how things would be moved around. Somebody has to set that up.
Yeah. Yeah. Awesome. Well, any final words for someone thinking about studying Latin with us? Anything else you want to say?
Hello, future ALI students. I hope that you guys are doing well. Stick with it, because it is more about, just continuing to engage with it more and more, which is one of the great parts of being at ALI. And the more you put in, the more you'll get out.